I'll do the intro since I just hit start.
Okay.
Hello, Slut Nation. We are here with more content regarding Stephen King and fairy tale. Turning it over to Christy. How are you today?
I am doing good. I'm excited to be here and to be doing this podcast and having this meeting
Nice.
today and talking about fairy tale some more. I'm sad that I haven't read that much compared to last week or as of last
Hmm.
week when we last met, but it's okay. We can still talk about it.
Yeah, we
Thomas.
all travel at our own pace.
We
That
all
is true.
do. The journey is different for all of us because we're different. Fairy tale. Oh, we're all
It's
sluts and we're sluts that read books. So you know you're nerds when you go to like join a meeting for the podcast that you do for the book club that you're in, and you
Yeah.
start talking about it before you hit record, which is what we do. So I'll start with
yeah,
how,
we got a little ahead of ourselves
yeah,
and overexcited. So,
It
it was an
happens.
unexpected journey.
oh,
But yeah, I started out saying that I didn't have the jacket on the book,
Hmm.
Fairy Tale, when I started reading, and how exciting it is. It's such a beautiful cover. But
mhm.
now that I look at it afterwards, that I finished, I think my experience reading will be different if I had had the jacket
Hmm.
on, just being excited about getting to
Yeah.
whatever stone staircase and boy and wolf, maybe.
Boy
This
and wolf.
is.
It does look like a wolf, not like a German Shepherd. At least to
For
me
an
it does.
old ass German Shepherd.
Well, she is old,
Oh.
so we do know that. um yeah. No, I that's actually good a good point. Because I don't like to read with jackets on either. One I don't like to mess them up, but also eventually they just get in the way for me. I
Hmm.
feel like. Um so yeah, before I start reading a book, I will take the jacket off. But I had seen the cover over and over before I actually picked it up to read because it was just sitting in my stack of unread until I got to it. Um, so I'd seen the cover and it is a beautiful cover. But I had a feeling that when we learn about this shed, that is what is in the shed, or very possibly. The giant roach was a shocker to
That's
me.
not on the cover, the
That
giant
is not on
roach.
the cover. I'm glad because it would not be a beautiful cover if there was a giant roach.
Just dead on the side, decaying into like gases and purple goop.
Yeah.
Did you imagine the goop being purple? I felt like it was purple.
I did not. I was weirdly imagining it was like almost like mist going like off into the air, and for some reason I
Hmm.
imagined it was like greenish. I don't know why.
I'm sure Stephen King told us what it was, but that was so long ago.
Yeah. You still imagine it the way you want to imagine it though.
It's interesting. You guys are talking about the roach in the shed because I've been reading a book that he put out in the '80s called Danse Macabre,
Oh
the,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
macabre dance, and where it gets the title from is he likens the experience of horror to like an actual dance with the reader, and that's
Mhm.
for any genre. So he goes over TV shows, movies, and then literature as well. Um, and so he breaks it down in an almost like scholarly way where he's like you have revulsion, right? So revulsion would be like in this case, like in a slasher film, like someone gets their head cut
Right.
off, like it's
You're
like,
like,
oh man, this is,
ah,
yeah, like that
that's
feeling of,
graphic and
oh.
painful. Yeah.
Exactly. That's very graphic and disgusting. And I kind of feel like the giant roach was the revulsion aspect,
Mhm.
but he says that relying too much on revulsion, it kind of cheapens the experience. So if it's
Yeah.
just like, if it's just the gross out horror aspect of horror, it's not as you're not doing that dance with the reader or the viewer,
Right.
because he then goes on to talk about what he considers horror. So horror versus revulsion, and horror would be that tapping on the door of the shed, and you're
Mhm.
like,
I
what's
don't know
in
what it
there?
is, and it's making some weird
Yeah,
sound I've never heard before. Yeah.
exactly. So that
Yeah.
that builds up that tension in you, and you're like, oh my god, like what's in there? Is it a person from like another dimension? Like, is it a giant bug? Is it like an axe murderer? You don't
Mhm.
know. And that also builds that tension in you, um and kind of does that the macabre dance with the reader
Yeah.
or the viewer. um and he says, like, if you obviously if you build up tension too long, then that's not good. But if you
Mm.
if you
Right.
are too short at the same time, then that's also not good. So it's like that kind of finding that sweet spot of building up tension, and then the scary monster pops out, and you're
Right.
like, oh my god, this is disgusting. And that's what he kind of goes for with the reader.
That makes sense. And I agree, because um probably my favorite movie genre is horror. And I definitely don't mind gore, but there is absolutely a limit. I've definitely seen
Hmm.
horror movies that essentially are just slasher films. And
Mm.
while there are some good ones out there, a lot of them I feel like they take it too far with the gore, and it
Hmm.
does become just
Hmm.
like just it does feel gross, and it's not
Hmm.
even enjoyable anymore. And there is no
Hmm.
like suspense building and like kind of fear. It's just like it's
Oh.
more stabbing or more axes
Yeah.
and or more chainsaws.
Huh.
I kind of feel so. I think there's probably some people who, well, not all of Tarantino's movies are gory, but he's got like the Kill Bill,
Hmm.
movies. I
Yeah.
can't remember what else, but he's got some that can be gory, and I know some people are like, I don't like it because it's too much. But I think Tarantino actually does a really good job of giving you a good amount, but he's not overdoing it. He's not gross about
Hmm.
it, to me at least.
Interesting.
Even when
Interesting.
it was gratuitous, like in Kill Bill, it was also ridiculous with the way that it was happening too.
Exactly. The way, and I think that's what, there's a point where it also almost ends up being funny because it's so ridiculous
What
the
else
way
could it
that
be at that point?
like right.
Huh.
And I
So
really
that's
like the delineation between like what
yeah.
the dance actually is, which is like
Yeah.
calm, suspense, and build up, and then like revulsion. And
Right.
that scene with the roach is a great example of how much build up, and
Yeah.
also all the calm beforehand. And it kind of goes into what we
Yeah.
spoke about last week, how Stephen King at this point is just a master of his craft. Reading
Right.
this versus reading The Gunslinger or even Salem's Lot or The Stand, like yes, they're all excellent and we clearly enjoyed them, but this is the high shelf whiskey compared to like what they were as far as the
Yeah.
excellence. I mean, the first entire half of the book, almost nothing supernatural happens, and yet I was falling in absolute love with
Hmm.
every single character
Oh yeah.
while still feeling the suspense building slightly in the background. And
Yeah.
Stephen King even delineates it further by telling you the status of testicles during each stage of horror,
That's true.
which we were speaking about at work today. Um,
He focuses on balls so much.
I don't want to
Like,
spoil it for you, but I'm fucking going to. So,
No, go
drawing
for
of
it.
the three, the next book that we're going to be reading, first
yeah.
page, fourth paragraph, balls. What are the
What?
balls doing? You find out. You fucking find out on the first page of the fourth
I
paragraph.
can't wait. I can't wait to find
Wait,
Look
out what
forward
happened,
to
really?
it.
what they're doing, and
Yeah,
why they're
that's
doing it.
right. It's the first thing. It's right
It's
there. La la
amazing.
la. Oh,
Well,
the balls. That's how they're experiencing this terror. Where are we on the Stephen King ball spectrum of terror? Oh, walnut
ah,
size. They were walnut balls.
Wait, does it actually say that?
It
Walnut.
does.
I
What?
I recall a screenshot from today in chat, Jeremy, where there was a lot of things being called sluts. And I thought that was
This is a
hilarious
slutty
too.
Okay. I didn't realize you were reading that because I thought you
No,
had
it's okay.
had muted that. So I was just talking like you weren't even reading it, and I was just like, I'm gonna throw this in there, I'm gonna throw that in there. Because I didn't
We
think
be
you were
slutty on
reading
the
it.
side sometimes. Sorry.
I think you should. I approve.
Yeah.
It's like Stephen King knew. He was like, look, somebody's gonna come up with a book club and a podcast and they're gonna call themselves that. So
Yeah, like that's what we were saying this morning. So we call our book club the Hot Book Sluts, and you're reading Drawing of Three, and he just uses
just
the
like
word slut.
throw
Like,
slut out like it's candy on Halloween.
yeah,
Like
yeah. I'm like, in Drawing of Three, there's like this gun owner, and the police are talking about the gun owner. They're like, "We gotta take this slut's gun," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like,
why is he a slut though?
right, yeah. And then he talks
That's
about
hilarious.
slut grass. So me and
Oh yeah,
Thomas were like,
right.
Oh, the
Googling
slut grass.
slut
I've been trying to
grass
think
and
of it this whole
like,
time.
I totally
yeah,
forgot about this. Like, yeah, it's great. I love it. It's hilarious to me. I'd happened to just glance at it. I have muted it because
yeah.
work is insane right now.
And
Even
also,
though
if somebody's there and it just pops up in the bottom corner of your screen, we're like, the sluts say this. The sluts are talking
there
about
you go.
sluts, sluts, and sluts and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
the
true.
sluts are slutzing very, very sluttily.
And repeatedly.
But no, my plan is to unmute very soon.
Okay.
But
I hope you
yeah,
get to
no,
that point.
I don't plan to keep it muted forever. Things are just insane right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I happened to just see that one little part and I like started laughing because it was hilarious. It did not give anything away, by the way. I just thought it was very
Yeah.
funny.
Speaking of not giving anything away, so Thomas was talking about balls and the focus on balls. So this is not a spoiler, but Drawing of Three, there's a part where Roland comes across 45 ammo, and he grabs the 45 ammo, and what does he do with it? He starts shoving it down his boxers into his underwear, and then running with it, and then
That sounds like
Stephen
it would
King's
be painful.
like, and King's like, and the bullets were slamming against his balls, and blah, blah, and I was like, I'm like, wait, what?
Huh?
Is-
He's never having children. He
It's like,
never.
is that on the
never
terror
has children.
spectrum?
That might
It
be.
might be. It might be like, what is? Thomas pointed it out before, and I never really paid attention to it, like the focus on like balls. But like,
I
think
never
Thomas
miss a
is
ball.
onto something here.
I never.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I don't know. I see. I can't. Obviously, I cannot really. But I can very much imagine that
Sorry.
that would not be an enjoyable experience. I feel like that could be on the terror spectrum there.
You want
The
very
horror
little
spectrum.
outside influence to the testicular arena.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's part of the terror buildup.
Yeah. You're just imagining yourself in his position.
Every
and you're
step
like,
is a danger.
ah,
Ah.
Oh god.
that sounds awful.
Yeah, it is.
I'm curious to find out why he had nowhere else to put it.
That's what I was wondering.
It's like antibiotics, boxers, bullets,
Yeah.
boxers. I was like, well, hello?
Also, how much can you fit in there?
Also, they're boxers.
Apparently
Like,
a lot.
you can't
Right.
put things in boxers. Have you ever
Well, that's
seen
the thing, it's like,
boxers?
Don't they just like fall out? I mean, wouldn't it just like sink down the legs of your pants eventually?
Right?
I mean, I don't know.
Right?
Maybe they're like the gay boy boxers that are like the like boxer briefs that are still skin tight.
Maybe
Possible.
so.
The macabre dance, like if you back on a serious note, if you think about it, there's so many ways that he could have wrote it. He like Charlie could have come out and he's like looking at the shed, and then there's like a thump against the shed, and then maybe he like pulls out a revolver and just rips it open, and he's like, boom, I'm gonna take on whatever's
Right.
inside there. And I feel like that would have been too short, where you're like not building up enough tension.
Absolutely. Definitely.
But at the same time, they could have gone like 400 pages exploring his backstory, and like
Right.
maybe he hears like maybe the thumps inside of the shed go on 6 or 7 different instances, at which point it takes away the tension, because you're just like, okay, now I just want to know what's in there.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
why
like,
are you,
okay, I don't
you know
care about what the hell is in the shed. This is just dumb. Now I just need to
exactly
know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think it takes the fear away from it if you do either
yeah,
one too soon or
yeah,
too long.
Yeah.
right,
Because if he just yanks it open and it's like I'm not afraid of the shed.
yeah,
When the amount of times that he sort of presented that in the
mhm,
first half until we find out made me fearful of the shed because I don't know
exactly,
because it's the
Yeah.
unknown and I have
mhm,
we have no clue what's behind that door
yeah,
I
or what
remember
could be
when
causing
he
it.
was in the house too, like being a good boy, making sure not to snoop, and how he kind of got invited to different layers of the house. First,
Yeah.
it was just the kitchen, and then it was like into the living room, like through the hall, and then it was upstairs into the bedroom, and then the attic. Um, and I remember the whole time like being excited because I wasn't scared of
Yeah.
the house because I knew about the shed. And that's another part of like
mm,
the dance that he does, the
Mm,
dance that he does. Um,
mhm,
interesting. Yeah.
way the horror was built. And it fits in with my favorite aspect of fairy tales is that they're random. Like, so even
mhm,
with the scuttling of the bug, like the way he presented it, it was happening, but it wasn't happening to Charlie. It wasn't happening to horrify anyone. It was just doing its thing, and he didn't know what it was. And that's the scariest
yeah,
thing about fairy tales, especially when magic is involved. Is it's very impersonal. Like fairies are crazy, and this is just how it's manifesting right now. And he keeps with that all throughout, but particularly with the creepy house and the shed and the way the house is just made a mystery as opposed to a horror helped to give a little bit of relief to us because we were seeing further into Bowditch, but knowing that Bowditch isn't the mystery, it's the shed and whatever was making that noise.
Mhm.
hmm, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I I have a question for you guys. Um, Christy, as far as where you're at, is
Mhm.
he making his way back out of the city?
Yeah, he's literally I mean, so I'm like halfway between what am I on? 19? I think when we last met I was on I had finished 17, so I've really only read a chapter and a half
So he's
Yeah.
since we
still
last
kind of
met.
like going through the
But
city.
he is making his way out of the city, yeah. And
Okay.
there's the suspense that he's not going to make it out because the last bell or whatever has already gone off. And
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
remembers Claudia tells him, you don't have to be out of the city before the last bell goes off, but you do have to be out before it's dark. So
Mm-hmm.
he's definitely lost. Like he's completely lost his way because that weird dwarf thing guy erased
Yeah.
all of the markers.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a bastard.
Uh, oh man, I think we talked last time about the fear of being lost. It's like a massive fear of
Yes.
mine, and I got
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I got so
it's
terrified.
so freaky. It's so well
Yeah,
done.
yeah. So he's still making his way out, but I loved the description at the beginning of this chapter where he's like, "Here's the thing about dogs. They're very trusting." And Radar is like, she's a few years younger now, so she's basically like in the prime of her life. So she's good to go. She can keep up. I don't have to worry about her health wise. But she just keeps looking up at me like tongue hanging out, like this is the best thing ever, and he's just
And he's
freaking out.
so scared. Yeah.
I
Gosh,
know.
that
I
was
was
so
like,
well
oh
done.
man, it was great. The contrast there. Oh man,
And also,
loved
like,
it.
that's a very real horror. Because I think anybody can like read that and relate to the horror of the situation. Like, oh, this innocent party like has nothing to do with this and doesn't know. Like, it's just very well crafted. And also kind of Stephen King showing beforehand, like, saying like Glenn Bateman survived the dog in The Stand, where he kind of tells you and doesn't tell it and like lets you wait and find out how it manifests in the story, the little tidbit he gave you. He's done that many times in a kind of tangential way in Fairy Tale, like with Claudia being like, get out of the city, like you don't have to be out when the bell rings, but like you got to be out before dark, like this multi-layered thing. There was something else early on where it was like you got to do it like this, but like this is okay. um but that kind of fits in with the whole, like, he's building the suspense before you even get there, like, oh, like there's a safety net, but at the same time, like, man, he wouldn't tell us there was a safety net if we weren't going to fall into it. So it's kind of fun seeing how that manifests each time, because he always tops himself, he always turns it in a way you don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
The whole situation, now I might be way off here, but when he was following the markers, the AB markers throughout the city, and then he's trying to leave, and like the little imp guy had started to rub them off and erase them. Did that remind you guys of a fairy tale? Is there like a specific like fairy tale that reminded you guys of?
Um, it makes me think of Hansel and Gretel.
Yep,
When
that's
they go through the
exactly what I was
forest, they leave
thinking.
the
Yep,
breadcrumbs, and then I don't
yep.
remember what removes them or eats them or whatever. Some
Yeah,
animal, I guess. I don't
yeah,
remember
Yeah, any animal in the forest that comes across a
that wants
breadcrumb.
food. I don't. Yeah. Well, who
yeah.
uses breadcrumbs?
That's
Yeah.
that's the exact fairy tale that I was thinking of
Yeah.
too. Where they kind of like leave their little breadcrumbs that they follow, and then I want to say that it's birds that come down and eat the bread.
It's probably just birds. Yeah. I don't think it's like a malicious character like in this book.
Yeah, yeah. And then they're like, "Oh no, we don't have our markers. How are we gonna get back?"
Right.
And I feel like he was thinking about Hansel and Gretel when he wrote that scene. The
Probably.
reason why is I remember the foreword. It, so the Stand had two forewords, right?
Yeah. I think there were two, and then I think also the gunslinger. Well, depending on which version of the gunslinger you
Yeah,
had, there
Yeah.
were
yeah.
also two. Yeah.
And in the first foreword, I want to say he talks about Hansel and Gretel at the start of the Stand, because
That's
people
ringing
were
a bell.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is. It is vaguely familiar. Yeah.
um
Thinking like
he
Larry going through the city while it's abandoned, like he makes a like thought that kind of points in that direction too. I could be wrong.
uh I so this is how I remember it. I remember listening to like the audio book and like driving on like 85, and
Just like that.
how he oh is it like the
He
Yeah.
was like the. That's how Jeremy drives.
Okay.
driving on the
Granny
car.
late for her dialysis appointment.
Yeah, like with the wheel that's like this. um so people, I think he says something like, people may criticize me for adding even more to an already lengthy book, but his
Oh
counter
yeah.
to that was, you can tell a story in as simplistic terms as you want, but the more backstory and more characterization that you add to it, it adds to that payoff. Like, with like Nick's death in the Stand, like you've built up this character like to such an extent with that huge backstory, and you
Right.
really tie the reader to the characters. So the way I remember it, he's like, with Hansel and Gretel, you can make that like 3 sentences long. You know, the kids got lost in the woods, then they found a witch, and they kicked the bitch into the furnace. End of story.
That's right. Yeah. No, that's true. Or you can make it really elaborate. What's their backstory? What's the witch's backstory?
Yeah.
What are all of their testicles doing?
That could be a whole chapter. That's true though. And then how do they find their way back home? How do they escape the witch? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like reoccurring themes with him happen a lot. Like because I noticed just in general, he talks about fairy tales a lot in the books. Just in general, like the concept of fairy tales comes up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's writing a lot about a lot of fantastical creatures and scenarios, so it makes sense. It makes sense that if at the very least the characters themselves would think like, oh my gosh, this is making me think of a fairy tale that my mom read me when I was a kid. Kind of
also,
like
thinking
Charlie.
about like pacing and breadcrumbs and the difference between The Stand and this, and the difference between like, Hansel and Gretel went to the woods, got lost, laid a trail of breadcrumbs, like, that is the pacing of this book. It's very consistent as far as time movement. Like The Stand wasn't like that at all. You'd have an episode and they go somewhere else, and then you felt like a lot of time went by, or you find out like, it was a week because they traveled a week and we didn't see him for that whole time. Whereas this book, every page turn, it's like a moment. You know what I mean? It's like an hour, and it stays that way through the whole book. And I think that's really genius that he was able to incorporate as much backstory and dance and robustness in the characters, while just keeping it so like chugging along at the same pace time-wise. And I'd say that's hard to do, especially I think of D&D. I always relate back to that. But pacing in D&D, it's very difficult to like find the right pace. It's very easy to let things linger on, or to like take away agency and skip. But that's another point to Fairy Tale's credit is it starts, and I feel like every 2 pages or every 3 pages, it's like an hour until you get to like the end of the day. And then you get the next day. And that pacing just really impressed me all the way through.
Yeah, that's one thing I've loved about this book as well, is the pacing. It's been very I don't even know what word I'm thinking of here, but it was very well done. It is, well, I'm not done. I'm talking like I'm done, but it is very well done, and I have enjoyed the pacing the entire time that I've read it. So
I was fascinated by Fairy Tale, and then when we read The Institute, it's very, very similar, where it's like you feel like you can't put it down. And I noticed in both of those, there's always something that's pushing you along as the reader, because the Fairy Tale starts and immediately I'm thinking like, I'm in Charlie's shoes. Is his dad going to relapse? Are they going to end up homeless?
Is that the direction the horror goes in? Like, because we don't know.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Because so early on.
Then it's the shed. What's in the shed? Like, I had to know so that I keep reading.
Right.
Then it's that concept of, so that kind of pulled me along. But then, like you were saying, Christy, as soon as he gets into that city and he's like, some of the markers are like worn off on like lamp poles and stuff, and he's like, is this a marker or is this like mermaid blood? I don't know. and like I felt like I was in that city. Like I could see myself like, acting like that and being like, oh, is this like, is this a marker or not? Like, am I gonna get lost in here? The time's ticking down. And it's like at each step of the book, it just like I don't know, like I couldn't put it down. Like it was just like so crazy and so well done.
And part of the dance too is he always showed you the next thing to be worried about. And I didn't think about that until you started explaining it. Whereas like The Stand, there's a lot of this lingering, and we know what the thing at the end to be worried about was, but like we just kind of like walked around until we got there.
Right. There's the overarching thing, but there's also minor ones, while slightly bigger ones are going on. Because while you're wondering what is in the shed, you're also wondering what's going to happen to Mr. Bowditch. Is he going to be okay?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Or Radar even, because we're worrying
Yeah.
about her too because she's so old.
Right. Right.
I'm wondering too if there comes to be a place, because actually I think there does. We'll have to discuss it next week. But there comes to a place where like you catch up to the horror. And that's scary too, because now we don't know what to be afraid of. And
Right.
like you do like get it again, like the horror catches up, like you do find out the things to be scared of. But there is a point coming up where like all the horrors have been dealt with, but this new scenario or this new like situation or environment, like waiting to see like where the next horrors are and like what the next presentation is. And
Right.
he like splits it up, and it's cool because then he picks it back up and he's like, all right, because you start to learn like, oh, so
Yeah.
that's the next thing to be afraid of, that's going to happen eventually. Oh, also this is the thing that's over there. Like,
Right.
it's just all very well thought out.
And where I'm at too, I'm even occasionally thinking about, because it's such real life, what is going to happen when he gets back home?
Oh, such a good question.
If he makes it back home, how is his
Oh.
dad going to react? He's been gone for and he wrote
Yeah.
his dad a note, right? But
Yeah.
at this
Like,
point, I don't even, I've sort of lost track of time a bit and how much time has actually passed since he went into this other
Right.
world. But
and he has no way of
is
knowing
his
if they're
dad,
correlated in any
that's
way
true.
or in any way that's good. Yeah,
Is
he
it
has no
like
idea.
1-to-1, or does time pass a lot quicker or slower in this new
Good
world? I
point.
mean, I don't
1-to-1.
know.
Yeah, because he slept here twice, 3 times at the point that you're at.
Yeah, I think it's
He slept at Dora's.
Dora's, then the other guys, and then Claudia's.
Yeah, Woody and Claudia.
And he's
So
about
yeah,
to
he's
come
like
to
on day 4
he's about to come to
ish.
night 4.
Mm.
Because he's still making his way out of the city. But like at this point, his dad has to be back by now, or is coming back
Yeah.
very
Oh
soon.
yeah, he was coming back
So
Sunday, and if it's been 3.5 days, it's either his
I think
dad's
it's
back right now or
right,
it's like getting into Monday morning.
right, exactly.
Mm.
So I'm thinking like when he gets back home, if he makes it back home, no clue how it's going to end, obviously yet, but what is his dad's reaction? That's a very real fear too, because it's not a fairy tale fear, but it's a
Yeah.
how is he going to explain that away? And how's his dad going to have reacted to it all? And I know he even worries a few different times about his dad starting and drinking again because he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
know what happened to his son um,
Yeah.
after leaving just some sort of vague note. Um,
Yeah.
but being gone so long at the same time. So that's also
Yeah.
something I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's gonna happen there.
And also you love his dad too, because I remember at that point,
Yeah.
like especially like with his comeback and the way he conducts himself, and also like Charlie's relationship with him speaks a lot of volume to like how good his dad is, because we love Charlie and we know how good of a kid he is. Um, like the horror of not wanting to like disappoint a father like that.
Yeah.
Just very real.
They're just good people and characters. I just like
Yeah,
them.
they are.
Makes me think of the end of the Lord of the Rings where they get back to the
Oh,
Shire and what they experience there. I'm not going to say
yeah,
anything else because you got
that's
to
true.
read
Yeah.
it.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
It's not
I
pressure at all. We've all read Lord of the Rings. We get it.
Yeah. I
no,
definitely get it.
I haven't though. I'm trying.
But you
I'm
get
so
it.
bad.
But now you get it though, yeah.
No, yeah, I am sad to say that the intense love for Lord of the Rings, I had no idea what people were talking about because
Yeah.
I saw the movies when they first came out. When did the movies come out?
Oh, I think even the third one is like 20 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So like I
Oh,
saw it so
yeah.
long ago, like when they first came out. Like I had literally no
No
appreciation
clue.
for
Yeah.
them, like as a child. I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's just another movie, whatever. And then in school, maybe grade 8, like The Hobbit was one of the books that you could read.
Yeah.
And so I read it, but I feel like
The
I
Hobbit
don't
does
know.
not prepare you for Lord of the Rings.
It does not.
Yeah,
It's another
yeah.
great one, but it does not prepare you.
Right. Because when I attempted it when I was much younger, it felt like so much history, and then you're just like,
Yeah.
I don't
It's
like
like
history. This is like
it's too much. Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
totally get that.
yeah.
I think I would have I didn't I don't think I read any of them until I was in college, but I know for a fact if I had
Mm,
tried to read them younger than that, I would have been like,
yeah.
nah, I'll try again later.
It's funny,
Yeah.
my favorite
Yeah.
book series does it the other way. The first three books, the first series is like Lord of the Rings and just like the history. Um,
Huh.
and then the first book of the next series is much more a quest, like The Hobbit is. Like it's an
Mm,
adventure.
Yeah, that's true.
interesting. Yeah. Now as an adult reading it, you're like, oh my gosh, like
It's
somebody
so
made all
interesting.
This is
this?
so
Like,
It's
impressive.
fascinating. Yeah, I don't know how one
exactly.
person's mind created all of this. Yeah,
Yeah.
Who
Like as an
doesn't want to be an elf?
adult,
Come on.
yeah.
I would love to be one.
You're just like, you made how many languages? Like,
How many
What? Like
languages?
he actually made languages. They have
It's
rules
I
and
think
yeah.
Jeremy sent me a video of him writing in his own Elvish
Yes.
script, like as an old man, and he's like
Yeah.
writing, and he's
ah,
like, I forget the grammar. I wrote it so long.
Yep.
I think it.
Yep.
It's
that's
so
Yeah.
funny.
cute.
Oh, that's so
And
cute.
the only, I guess the only other series that would be anywhere close to that level of detail would be Dune? Maybe? Like the Dune
Dune
books?
is extensive. Yeah, I've only read the
And see,
first
I've
book,
never
but
read
it's very
Dune,
extensive.
but from what I've heard, yeah, that's probably true.
Huh.
Yeah.
Dune has one of my favorite like political takeover like old witches covens ever. It's so fucking cool. The I'm gonna talk about this now. I'm sorry, guys. The Ben
No,
Gesserit
please.
are like the like kind of mystical coven of women who like have rose
Mm.
to political power, and
Yeah.
their technique and the way the main characters of Dune assimilate to the planet that they're on in a position of power after the fiasco happens, is the Ben Gesserit have planted seeds of religion on a bunch of like outer planets in a codified way so that if one of their order is ever on the planet in some type of difficult situation, they can fucking fulfill their prophecies to be seen as a religious messiah and assume control of the natives.
Oh,
Yeah,
what?
it's fucking gnarly, dude. Like, dude is
What?
it's crunchy. It's real
That's
crunchy.
crazy.
Isn't it
I
nuts? So it's so good. I have goosebumps. Like it's so
I
crazy.
I read the first book and I didn't pick up on that at all. That's insane.
It's if you read it again and think about that, you'll be like, oh, how did I
Oh
not
my
see it? It's so
gosh.
crazy.
Yeah,
And I
now
think
that
that's
you
what's so
explain
amazing
it.
about rereading those kinds of books because
Yeah.
are so extensive. You're not going to get everything
Yeah,
when the first read.
but
So
not every book can be reread too. Like
that's true.
we're
Yeah.
already like a few books away, and we started with Salem's Lot, Jeremy and I, before we began the stand together, and I could already read Salem's Lot again, like
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah. Yeah.
recidivist.
Which I
Same.
absolutely need to. It's on my list for sure. So,
Well,
and
it's
I've
in
got
our
it, but
Dark Tower spree that I guess will be the next
Hmm.
couple years of our podcasting if we survive, which we will.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Do you guys want to hear something really weird about Dune?
yes.
Uh, um, so I believe when Frank Herbert first came up with the idea, it was so massive and so sprawling of an epic that he couldn't find a publisher that would take that on because the publisher would look at the manuscript and they're just like, this is never going to sell, because I think it
No
came out in
way.
the
Yeah.
60s maybe.
Did it? That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no publisher wanted to touch it, but he found one publisher, and it was like a the publisher made automotive manuals. So like if
Oh
you
my
bought
gosh.
like a Toyota or a Honda or
Gnarly.
whatever, they would make like the car manual. And so they're like, you know what? This series sounds crazy, but yeah, like let's just do it. Yeah, who cares? Let's do like a limited print run. We'll see if it's successful. And I believe if you have like really old car manuals, there's like an ad for like Dune inside of them because
Oh, that's so cool.
That's
Yeah.
super because they can. Oh, that's so cool.
yeah. Let me
That's
hopefully I
That's
can find
that's
that.
really unique. I like that. As well
Yeah,
as like
there's
it's kind of similar to, you know, Stephen King publishing stories and what was it, like Hustler? I can't remember.
Yeah, like
yeah, I
oh
forgot about
man,
that.
yeah.
That's true. He had to get them out there somehow.
Yeah. Like a slut.
Cavalier.
See? Exactly. Yeah. Man,
The big slut circle in this world we live
it's
in.
full circle now.
I like watching Jeremy surf the internet. I could watch that for hours.
Because his eyes are just like very unfocused looking around. Yeah. That's funny though, because I feel like that publisher was like, this is our big break. This is gonna be
Probably
it.
was. I hope they died fat and happy.
We
Or
will no
still
longer
alive,
just
you know,
be in the manual publishing world. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good story.
Nobody wanted to publish Dune except a car repair company. I just found the article. Chilton's Auto Repair Manual.
It's a good read.
Huh.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
there
I
is
thought,
extensive, so.
yeah. Yeah, if you pick up a repair manual for the Chevy Corvair, there might be a ad for Dune in there.
Noted. That's
Now I
awesome.
just need to go find one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like ultimate
Exactly.
nerd collectors
Yeah.
item.
I found the one with the ad.
I honestly, yeah, that'd be kind of cool if you found like a super old car manual and it had it in there. Like I'd be excited.
That
Yeah.
would be super cool. Like that would definitely be something you'd frame.
Now I'm gonna
Yeah.
look at car manuals in thrift stores.
Or a
Thrift-
Chevy, what was
Old
it?
thrift stores. Corvair?
Like a Chevy Corvair. Does Bo have any? Maybe.
Not old ones, no.
Is he
He's
a
got
Chevy
like
enthusiast?
he's got specifically one for the race car that he's got, which is a Mustang. So Ford, not Chevy.
Oh, okay.
No Dune there. Womp womp.
No,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Gotcha.
But now I'm intrigued. I want to find one just to say that I found it.
How old do y'all think the dog is?
I feel like
Little radar.
I'm assuming before she goes on the dial. The
Yeah,
sundial.
just like full span of years. Because I like to think she went on the dial like a couple times.
I think
don't
it
know if that's
actually
accurate.
says she does it's either 4 or 5 turns. I want to say it's 5 turns, which is a year, I believe. Or at least that's how Charlie was understanding it. Each turn is a full year.
Huh.
It was like doggy years, like affecting her.
Yeah.
Doggy
I think she
years.
does 5 turns, and I guess I was kind of assuming she was somewhere between like 12 to 15.
Wanted to be
So.
like 48.
48. She's the longest living dog ever. That'd be amazing.
My Jeremy froze.
Oh,
Move,
I
sweet
did?
Jeremy.
No, I'm here. Am I frozen?
You moved. Hello.
Not to me. I think for me at least
Oh.
you froze for like half a second. But
You
Oh,
came
really?
back to us.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, when I was trying to search up the article on the Dune car manual connection, like my computer was like, you shouldn't have 20 tabs open, and it started freaking out. So
Do what I
No.
want.
stop it. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I should have done that.
Pause.
What? Where are we at with time? I guess we got 15 minutes or
I think it's like
10
15
minutes?
minutes or something.
15 minutes? Okay.
I don't know if
Okay,
we started
gotcha.
at 6:40 or 6:45. Or sorry,
Uh,
5:40 or
don't know
5:45.
either.
I can't tell time.
time is now becoming meaningless.
It
We
is.
are the people that what's the phrase? Time has moved on for all of us.
Oh, right. From the Gunslinger. Oh, I think it's something like the world has moved on, or something like that.
Yeah,
I
the
think
world
that's what
has
it is.
moved on. Like,
Yeah.
have we been here for 3 minutes or 3 hours? I
Or
can't
is it 3
tell.
years?
Oh no.
Also, does this devil grass taste funny to y'all?
Does this slit grass taste weird to you, Thomas?
Slather more on me.
Uh, um, kind of going back to I'm interested like in both of your take on this. So talking about like that dance of horror where you're like building up tension and then the shambling monster comes out. So what would be like an example of a movie where you felt like there was no like build up and it was just like slasher all the way and it just like gross out? Can you guys think of like an example where it seemed like they were just going for like it was just gross and it was kind of like a turn off?
It's been a while since I've seen a movie like that.
I
I
can
know I
think of
have.
one. I remember the first Hostel was pretty gratuitous to
See, and
me.
I've never seen any of the Hostels because I think I was afraid of that. I was like, they seem,
It felt
yeah,
gratuitous to me. Also,
yeah,
Hellraiser, but maybe I was just particularly disturbed by Hellraiser. Um, because it is like I don't remember how gory it actually was, but I remember like finishing it and being
yeah,
like, that's the most freaked out I've been after a horror movie ever. But then again,
yeah.
I was on drugs, so who knows?
It could have been one or both. That's no
I
telling.
Yeah, I yeah, I can see what you mean because Hellraiser there really is no, I guess, build up, right? Because they solve the puzzle box and then these like super grotesque creatures come from another dimension and they're just yeah, it's just pure revulsion.
And you're
Yeah.
never free of the environment too, so there's never like a point of like break or safety, like it's
Yeah,
constant, so there's no dance, you're just there, like
Right.
you're
yeah,
in a pool of horror as opposed to having a dance.
Right.
right. And
I.
maybe
Oh,
oh
go ahead.
yeah.
I was gonna
Well,
say I was gonna have an example. So go ahead.
oh no, do your example, please.
Um. So I actually thought of I. It's been a while since I've seen any of this series, but maybe after like the second Saw, because at
Oh
the
yeah,
very least, the
yeah.
first one, it's been a long time. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen any of them, but I do very much remember the first one because it was the first one, so it's like
Yeah,
a
and it was kind of
totally
revolutionary
new,
at the time. It was such a
kind of
like
revolutionary of the
Yeah.
story that it was telling and what was going on. So I remember that one being very good. I
Yeah.
I think the second one is I don't remember that. I think that one did really well too and was actually really good. Maybe the third, but after that, like I don't know how many they made like 6 or something like that. But it got, it went downhill. I don't even think I've seen all of the ones that they've released, but those can be pretty gruesome, obviously, and gory,
Hmm.
and it is kind of just a constant onslaught of you're just
Yeah.
constantly in it. But there is a build because you still don't like what are they going to get out? Are they gonna do the task and escape?
and particularly the
Um,
Hmm.
first one, there is a dance
yeah,
because yeah, they're in
yeah,
horror environments, so you're not dancing, you're in the pool of horror.
right,
But they
Yeah.
also had like this task-based system that they were going
right,
through. So there was breaks, there was time where it was the beginning
yeah,
of it, and it was safer than like after, like as you're coming to the
Yeah.
end point. So you do
right,
get that dance back and forth.
yeah. But then I
Dance
think
was a
at a
really
certain
good metaphor.
point, yeah, it is. It is a good, very good one. I think at a certain point they do get gratuitous, though. Absolutely. I don't remember which one that is.
Which
but-
installment of like,
Yeah.
Saw 1 through 9 or whatever.
Right. It's probably it's got to be anything after 3 for sure.
Right.
Just by default. But
Yeah.
I do remember the overarching story being really good though, because then we start to learn who Jigsaw is and why he's doing what he's doing, and then he has the girl that he recruits that he plants in there as like a decoy, and it's really good. It's so good. I don't remember how many movies that spans though.
Who didn't love John at the end of the first Saw, which is weird to say, but I feel confident saying it. I remember like learning about John and just being like, all right, like that's terrible, but like look at you go.
It's bad.
Living a weird dream, I guess.
Yeah.
Going back to the Hellraiser example that Thomas brought up, I think that's such a good example because there is not a whole lot of tension there. It's just like, boom, here's these super disgusting creatures, and there's no like break, there's no safe space. It's just like they're just there, and I don't feel tension necessarily when I watch those movies. It's more just like, get this off the screen.
I need to see something else. Yeah.
And
I think there's a place for that. There's a reason they're made. There's a reason they're successful.
Sure. You probably have to be in the mood for it for sure too. I don't think it's just gonna throw it on.
These are the hot sluts, not the desperate sluts.
Yes.
the popularity of a Clive Barker versus like a Stephen King, I think that kind of shows like what people actually want. Like they want that, the general public wants that, like, build up attention versus it's just like this grotesque body horror type thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's going to be so hard for you to write a description for this episode in particular. We have got so many different.
There's a lot of things in here. A lot of stuff.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing just like, episode like, what's your favorite horror movie, or like, what's your favorite movie in general? Like, that's interesting to me.
And that's hard. That's very hard, even if it's just favorite horror movie. And I haven't, the other sad thing too is that I haven't seen basically any of the new stuff in the last 10 years. So I'm so behind.
I still haven't seen Get Out, and a lot of ones that people
finally saw Get Out, but that was only like 6 months ago, and it's been out for like 5 years or something now. But I'm so behind on all the more recent kind of mainstream popular ones that came out in the last 10 years or so, and so all of mine would just be old. Not that that's a bad thing, but all of my favorite ones are definitely going to be older ones. So I would love to do an episode like that, though. That would be so fun.
Would be fun.
Yeah, I kind of just break it up. Like, what's your favorite horror film? Why is it your favorite horror film? And then kind of like break it down, and then somehow we'll like relate it back to Stephen King in some way.
Yeah. At the very least,
I think he'll understand if we submit episodes to the YouTubes that speak about other things.
Yeah.
From him.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be under. I mean, look,
we're all sluts here.
We put a ramen review in there, and people were crazy.
Loved it.
The most popular thing that we've ever done.
I'm Thomas from Ramen Reviews.
Yeah.
The one.
I loved it. Just like the look on your face where you're like, it tastes of sesame oil.
And that's accurate. It was one of 2 ingredients.
It was very overpowering, though. Like, just too much. Yeah.
How about this? The next episode. So if we have read more, then we'll talk about that. But if we haven't, then we'll just talk about like our favorite horror movie. That'd be cool.
That's
I'm
fine.
down.
Yeah, I got a couple like in the. I can talk about that forever.
There's a couple I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. I'm not going to say anything, yeah, because I don't want to spoil anything.
Oh,
But
now I'm
I don't
excited.
I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll think about it
Yeah.
over the next week or so if we end up not talking about fairy tale.
Yeah.
Depending on how much reading I can get done. But
Let's
I
whatever.
I hesitate to say that I could pick a favorite. I might have a few.
Oh, I think
Okay.
that's better.
I think it's better too. Yeah, because it just a lot more to talk about. I like it.
Yeah.
It's
That
exciting.
shows a love for the genre where you're like, I can't just pick one.
Yeah.
It has to be at least 5.
5. These are all my favorite.
And then we
They're
can
all
name
at
the
number 1.
video top 5 horror movies of top book sluts.
Yeah, actually, I mean, yeah, like top
That's a good idea.
5, top 10 favorite horror movies. Content
We don't
like
have to
that
pick
does
a
really
number until
well.
we do the video and generate the number with how many we talk.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
true.
it's gotta be the 13 scariest movies.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We could probably
if
do
Christy
that.
can bring 5 to the table, I think we can make up the difference.
We could do that.
Yeah.
I may not have 5. I don't know. I'm thinking there's only a couple I'm thinking of right now, so I'd have to see what else comes to mind. So
I want to know
then
what
I'm
they are
probably
so
forgetting
bad.
about. Yeah.
If we have
I
enough
feel
users to
like
call us on the incorrect number, like it's a win.
Oh,
Yeah.
we got our first comment. We got our first comment, and it was amazing because it's from a guy named like Dr. Ghoul. And so
Oh,
Dr. Ghoul,
I
Dr.
like that.
Ghoul, if you're listening right now, if you're out there, please comment more. I love it. I love it.
That's a
More
great
Dr.
great
Ghoul.
name, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yes.
And if
I
you got
love
to the
it.
end of this hour-long episode, then
Yes.
absolutely comment. We'll respond to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
If Dr. Ghoul, if you made it all the way to the end of this hour-long episode, we're talking to you. Also,
Congrats.
like and subscribe.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think that's all I got.
No? Okay.
I don't know.
Bye.
Beautiful cover. I love that cover.
Oh yeah, the most beautiful. See ya. See you guys tomorrow.
Make good
Bye.
choices.
Bye.
Always.
Bye, Jeremy.
I'm frozen. It won't leave. It won't
Oh
leave
God.
the thing.
No.
Oh God.
Dr. Ghoul, help us.
Dr. Cool, help me. I don't know how to stop it.
Do we all just hang up? I'd be afraid to hang up and then lose it.
I just keep hitting leave, but it's not working.
Should I leave?